This is the story of a mysterious and terrifying incident that took place within a company, a story that left everyone in shock. It's about a small-town company and the eerie experience of one employee that no one could explain. The company's name was Midtown Solutions. It was a small marketing and digital services firm located in a quiet little town. In 2017, when I started working here, the atmosphere was very normal and friendly. The boss, Mr. Sharma, was a good and understanding man. The office was small, with about 10 to 15 employees, and I had joined as a junior marketing executive. My job mostly involved managing day-to-day office tasks. The team was supportive, and we all became good friends. But despite everything seeming normal, strange events started happening in the company. At first I thought it was just a coincidence, but later I realized something was definitely wrong. Our office was located in an old building. The structure had been built about 50 years ago and looked quite aged. The top floor of the building had a large hall which was hardly ever used. It remained mostly empty and dark. No one worked in that area, as it always felt a bit creepy. Even though everything seemed fine, every time I passed by that hall I felt like something was off, like someone was watching me. Things were going smoothly until one day, when I was sitting at my desk, suddenly strange noises began coming from that hall. At first I ignored it, thinking it was just the building settling. But one day, when I was alone in the office, the noises got louder. It sounded like heavy footsteps, like someone walking around in there. I dismissed it as just an overactive imagination, but when I went to check, I saw nothing. The hall was empty, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. One day, I mustered the courage to go into the hall and investigate. Everything was quiet, but then I noticed something unusual. In the far corner there was an old wooden chest that hadn't been there before. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. Inside I found an old diary. The diary belonged to a former employee who had worked at the company. As I flipped through the pages, I discovered some chilling entries. The former employee wrote about experiencing strange occurrences in the building, especially at night. They mentioned hearing whispers and feeling the presence of someone in the building after hours. The entries spoke of cold drafts, flickering lights, and the feeling of being watched. But the last entry was the most disturbing. It mentioned that the employee had seen someone standing in the hall, staring at them, and after that they disappeared without a trace. My heart began racing as I realized that the employee had vanished mysteriously after writing this diary. I closed the diary and put it back in the chest, but I couldn't forget what I had read. I wondered if something paranormal was happening in the office. It wasn't long before things started to get even stranger. The woman from the diary, whose face I had never seen, began appearing in pictures around the office, on desks, on the walls, and even on computer screens. It was as though her image was appearing on its own. At first I thought I was just tired, but the more I saw her face, the more unsettled I became. One day I asked Mr. Sharma about the pictures. His face went pale when I mentioned it. "You've seen her?" he asked, his voice shaking. "That's the picture of a former employee. She worked here long ago, but one day she disappeared. After her disappearance, strange things started happening in the office. People started hearing noises, seeing shadows, and some even claimed to have felt her presence. We don't talk about it much, but yes, her picture was always here." I was speechless. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The woman in the pictures, the one I had seen, was the same person who had vanished. It was all connected. Days passed, and the strange occurrences continued. The woman's picture kept appearing in various places, and I started feeling like someone was always watching me. Then one evening, after everyone had left, I was working late when I heard the sound of footsteps in the hall. I was the only one left in the office, so I quickly went to check. When I opened the door to the hall, I saw something that froze me in place. The woman from the picture was standing at the far end of the hall, facing me. Her eyes were wide open, and her face bore an unsettling smile. I stood there, paralyzed with fear. Then, as quickly as she had appeared, she disappeared into the shadows. Terrified, I rushed back to my desk and grabbed my things. I couldn't stay there any longer. The next day I told Mr. Sharma about what I had seen. He listened quietly, but his face grew more somber as I spoke. "I think it's time we did something about this," he said. "We need to shut down that hall. No one should be working there anymore." A few days later, a company-wide meeting was held. Mr. Sharma informed everyone that the top floor and the hall would be closed off permanently. No one was allowed to go there, and the room would be locked. But there was something else, he told us, that I hadn't known before. The building had once been owned by a man who had died mysteriously in an accident. After his death, strange things started happening. Some said it was a coincidence, but others believed it was tied to his spirit. No one knew for sure. The decision was made to close the hall, and the company moved on with its daily work. But even though the hall was sealed off, the strange occurrences didn't entirely stop. Every now and then, when I passed by the office building, I felt like someone was still watching from the shadows. To this day, I think about that place. I wonder if the woman's spirit will ever find peace, and if the old owner's spirit still lingers in the halls, waiting for something, or someone. The mystery remains unsolved, and I still have questions about what really happened in that building. But I'm no longer there, and the last time I heard, the office moved to a new location. This story revolves around the eerie events that transpired in a small company where unexplained occurrences left the employees on edge. It's a chilling reminder of how sometimes the past may never truly stay buried.